Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh to Dr. Sabarina. I am Nur Syafiqah binti Syam with matrix number 2021853504 from AS2291B. For this task assignment, EVT474 Environment Chemistry subject, my individual assignment video for this presentation that I had chose for my topic entitled Climate Change. First and foremost, I will explain about what is climate change. What exactly is climate change? Is it a synonym with global warming? When did the climate change become a big topic on the global agenda? And what are the primary causes and the implication of it? Although these terms are frequently used interchangeably, global warming is only one element of climate change. The term global warming refers to the rise in the global temperatures caused mostly by the rising quantities of the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Climate change refers to the gradual changes in climate measures over time, such as precipitation, temperature, and wind patterns. Our mission is to comprehend the properties of the Earth, particularly the Earth's surface, that affect our country's land, water, and biological resources. This includes a significant amount of environmental monitoring. Other organizations such as NOAA and NASA are explicitly financed to monitor global temperature and atmospheric phenomena like ozone concentration. Now let's talk about climate change, which has been called the problem of our time. But it's easy for us to become fascinated with this story. The science is very complex. Climate change is a global phenomenon of climate transformation characterized by changes in the planet's normal climate, which are temperature, precipitation, and wind, that are primarily caused by human activities. As a result of unbalanced weather patterns on Earth, the viability of the planet's ecosystem as well as the future of humanity and the global economy are jeopardized. According to NASA, climate change is a broad spectrum of global phenomena caused mostly by the combustion of fossil fuels, which add heat-trapping gases to Earth's atmosphere. These phenomena include the rising temperature trends outlined by the global warming, as well as the changes such as sea level rise, ice mass loss in Greenland, Antarctica, the Arctic, and the Mount glaciers around the world, variation in flowers and the plant blooming, and extreme weather events. Next, according to scientists, there is a 95% possibility that human activity is to blame. The power of our houses, factories, airlines, and vehicles, we have been consuming more and more fossil fuels like oil, coal, which emit carbon dioxide. There are a lot of us as well. In the last 70 years, the world's population has more tripled. In addition, we are consuming more products from animals which emit another pollutant known as methane. So all of those gases are released into the atmosphere. And as sunlight enters the Earth's atmosphere, some of the heat is trapped and the plants become warmer. That is why it is referred to as the greenhouse effect. The worry is not that the world is warming, but that it is so at an alarming rate. The Earth's climate has been changing since its formation from 4.5 million years ago. Until recently, these changes were caused by natural processes, volcanic eruption, changes in the Earth's orbit, and the variation in the Earth's crust are all natural impacts on the climate change known as plate tectonics. Over the last million years, the Earth has gone through a sequence of ice ages, including cooler, which is glacial, and warmer, which is interglacial periods, and the interglacial changes in Earth's orbit around the Sun causes glacial and interglacial periods to recur roughly every 100,000 years. Earth has been in an interglacial period with a steady temperature for the last few thousand years. Human contributes to climate change through emitting carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. There is more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere today than there has been at least 2 years ago. Carbon dioxide levels increased 40,000 between the 20th and the 21st centuries. So, here are the causes of the climate change. Firstly, burning fossil fuels, which carbon dioxide has been locked away in the ground for thousands of years in fossil fuels such as oil, gas, and coal. When we remove these from the land and burn them, we release carbon dioxide that has been stored in the soil into the atmosphere. Next is deforestation. Forests remove and store carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Because there are no trees to absorb carbon dioxide, cutting them down causes it to build up faster. Not only that, but when we burn trees, we unleash the carbon dioxide they have accumulated. Thirdly is agriculture. Planting crops and raising livestock emit a wide range of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Animals, for example, create methane, which is 30 times stronger as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. Nitrous oxide, which is used in fertilizer, is 10 times more toxic and nearly 300 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Lastly, the causes of climate change is cement. The cement production is another contributor to climate change, accounting for 2% of total carbon dioxide emission. Climate change has a direct impact on natural resources, infrastructure, and the environment as well as on human health. There are also some indirect consequences that are expected to be severe. Climate change has the potential impacts in Malaysia include, among other things, such as sea level rise, reduced crop yields, increased disease among the forest species and biodiversity loss, erosion of shorelines, increase of flood intensities, coral reef bleaching, increased incidence of disease, tidal inundation of coastal areas, decreased water availability, loss of biodiversity, and more drought. Next, here are the effects of climate change. Number one is temperature. Unlike the worldwide mean temperature, which shows considerable increases in the early and late 20th centuries and a minor cooling in the middle of the century, the annual temperature across the majority of the southern hemisphere over the last century, the Asian region has gradually grown. The ongoing decrease in the diurnal temperature range is one of the most prominent climate change phenomena because the daily minimum temperature rose faster than the daily maximum temperature. When compared to other locations in Malaysia, Western Peninsular Malaysia experienced a greater increase in temperature. Peninsular Malaysia experienced greater temperature increases than East Malaysia. Peninsular Malaysia has seen an average temperature increase of 0.5 to 1.5 Celsius, whereas East Malaysia has an increase of 0.5 to 1.0 Celsius. Next, the effect of climate change is food. Climate and weather conditions have been an impact on our food supply. Farmers and research may be able to adapt or develop new agriculture techniques and technology, but other changes will be difficult to handle, such as temperature increases, drought and water stress, illness, and weather extreme all pose problems to the farmers and ranchers who provide food for our meals. Farmer laborers may experience heat-related problems such as tiredness, heat stroke, and heart attack. Rising temperature and heat stress can also be detrimental to cattle. Number three, effect to the human health. Human health is already being impacted by the climate change. Changes in weather and climatic trends can endanger people's lives. Heat is one of the most dangerous weather conditions. Hurricanes are becoming stronger and wetter as ocean temperature rise, which can result in both direct and indirect deaths. Dry conditions fuel more wildfire, which pose numerous health dangers. Increased flooding can result in the spread waterborne infection, injuries, and the chemical risk. Mosquitoes and ticks can spread disease to new areas when their geographic ranges increase. The most vulnerable groups, such as children, the elderly, individuals with the pre-existing health condition, outdoor laborers, and people with little income, are at even greater risk as a result of climate change's compounding consequences. However, public health organizations may collaborate with local communities to help people understand and prepare for the health implications of climate change. Lastly is the coastal areas. Coastal areas are more exposed to the climate change and fluctuation, sea level rise, land loss, changes in marine storm, and the flooding responses to sea level rise, and the implication for water supplies are all major concerns. The global sea level is rising because coastal lands on the mid-Atlantic and Gulf Coast are receding. Sea level rose to 5 to 6 inches higher than the global average over the last century. Higher temperatures are predicted to rise sea level further by expanding ocean water, melting mountain glaciers and the tiny ice caps, and melting of the portion of the Greenland and Antarctic ice sheets. According to the IPCC, which is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, global average sea level will increase by 0.6 to 2 feet over the next century. Next, we want to know how we can help to prevent the climate change. Climate change is already having a greater influence on our globe than we can imagine. Temperature continues to rise over the world, and precipitation patterns are changing in ways we have never seen before. Pollution is the primary source of our planet's devastating impacts. Fortunately, there is always something we can do to combat climate change. Saving the environment begins with us, and it is our job to take action against these heinous developments in order to protect the earth for future generations. So, what we can do to prevent climate change from happening? Firstly, we have to make our community green. Every day, millions of individuals driving to work. It is simply unavoidable in today's society. The negative is that millions of cars create greenhouse gases that degrade our environment. When it comes to the leading causes of climate change, vehicle emissions are close second. There are always other choices for making your journey to work more environmentally and friendly. To begin, taking public transportation to work is an excellent method to reduce pollution. And riding your bike to work is also extremely beneficial to the environment and a great way to get some exercise. Number two, we have to be more conservative with energy usage. This can apply in our daily activity. Increasing of our energy efficiency is a fantastic method to reduce pollution. It causes plants to use less energy, which can result in the emission of greenhouse gases. This means that we should do all possible to reduce our household energy use. When we are through with something, make sure we turn off the lights and unplug any equipment that we no longer use. To help we save electricity, replace the incandescent light bulb with energy efficient light bulbs. Number three, we have to do recycle. Every year, manufacturing companies release a large amount of greenhouse gases. It is unavoidable in the production of items that that we use every day. Recycling is, on the other hand, would be a more environmentally beneficial choice. Recycling is a low-cost, environmentally friendly method of trash reduction that emits no greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So how we can do? First, take our newspaper, glass, plastic, and electronics to a recycling center near us. These items will be transported to a processing plant and converted into other recyclable materials. Lastly, we have to educate ourselves and others. In our current world, which depends on our technology, we need the teaching of others about climate change that we cannot be stressed out. There are numerous banners available to us that can help us simplify convey our message. There are always methods to educate others on climate change from happening to our planet, whether through word of mouth or social media. We may assist to safeguard and the environment by educating others about the dangers of climate change and how to combat it. The last important part is the laws and policies. So, the laws and policies that apply are conduct systematic assessment and harmonize existing legislation, policies and plans taking into account and proposing relevant balance, adaptation and mitigation action to address following sectors such as agriculture and food security, natural resources and environment, which are water biodiversity, forestry, minerals, soils, marine, and air, the energy security, and other industries. Next, the identifying and recommend low carbon economic strategies for the following sectors, such as transportation, public infrastructure, and waste management. The third class is incorporate and assist the deployment of environmentally friendly policies and technology by strengthening laws and regulation, and we have to do an enforcement, research and develop and transfer of technology. Lastly, conserve and enrich the carbon pools in the natural ecosystem, including plantation, and encourage the rehabilitation of fragile and degraded ecosystem through good management and land use planning. Nonetheless, the conclusion is that the regional climate changes, particularly temperature rises, are affecting natural systems all across the world, and that these temperature increases are almost certainly the result of anthropogenic greenhouse gas emission. Malaysia uses precautionary principles to mitigate and adapt to climate change, notwithstanding scientific uncertainty. Malaysia has made tremendous progress in establishing a legislative framework for climate change mitigation and voluntary environmental disclosure. Malaysia also developed a national policy on climate change in 2020 to mainstream and give a framework for the country's many actions in this field. So that's all from me. Thank you.